All right, so in this video, we're going to show you how to install your Pawport onto a pet door, an existing pet door in a retrofit situation where you do not have the security grooves. This door here, this pet door, has no security panel groove. So to put Pawport on here, very easy, but you're going to have to kind of figure out the best application for your door. What I want to do is grab the mounting rails from your package. And what we're going to do with the ears of the rails facing in, we have to look at what the best way to go here is. You could screw these on to the frame where you just screw it on. I'll talk to you about how to do that. But if you have a narrower frame like this that's several inches narrower than Pawport, you could just go right onto the wall. And I would recommend just going right up against your pet door like that, where you put the rails right here. And that way you frame right around the existing door. So what you want to do here is usually you'd want to line up the bottom ear with the bottom of the door if you were mounting it right on, but you can go a little below it. And on this door, it just fits really nice on this frame to just go right up against it and put this just maybe about a 1/16 of an inch or an 1/8 of an inch underneath the frame. Just give yourself a little room there. So leave a little space. And this is pretty much where you'd mark that I would make my holes. And you're going to use these holes here. There's set screws that are in these holes. You're going to want to use the hole up here. I'm going to take my Pawport tool. I'm going to take the little end off that tool and just kind of make a little mark right there. And then I'm going to do one at this hole down here. You can see that one. The second hole down here, I'm going to just make a little mark down here as well. And so what I've done, this is where I'm going to go ahead and just screw right into the wall with my anchors. So if you come over here, you can see how I've created two little marks. And now what I want to do is take my drill bit, come in here, and you have your anchors that we included with the package. There's 4 anchors. So this bit basically is the same width as that anchor. Just line that up, and I'm going to just come in here right on the hole here, and I'm going to drill my first. And then I'm going to come on the second hole, right where that mark is, that little dent. I made a little dent there, and then drill my second. Now what I can do is take this rail, put it right into this spot here. Just eyeball it, make sure I got it good, it looks good. So the first step, I'm going to put this anchor in. Push the anchor in like so. And I'm going to take another anchor, and I'm going to push it down here. And so now I've got my 2 anchors in. So we're going to go ahead and tap these anchors in. Just kind of lock them in there. And now, before we do anything else, I'm going to preset these anchors, meaning I'm going to take the screw that came with it, thread it through, and I'm going to crank down on this anchor so that it locks to the wall. Now I know the railing isn't in here yet, but I want to engage that anchor. Once it gets all the way in, it's going to start pulling that anchor to the wall, and it's going to start locking. So here we go. Let's get that nice and tight. You want to keep going until you feel that anchor lock in. If you've never worked with wall anchors, this is a good chance to learn how they work. Even though that looks like it's screwed all the way in, what it's doing is grabbing the anchor on the other side of the drywall, pulling it towards itself, and making a sandwich behind the drywall so that this really sticks in. It's starting to get tight. You can see now I'm really working it, and now behind here, the anchor is going to be really screwed on here. Okay. You can even have a look. This is our little makeshift wall. This is what's going on behind your wall. As you can see how that anchor comes up and grabs that like that. So now what I'm going to do, if you come around the front again here, I'm going to take the screw out with the anchor in there. So now I'm going to just unscrew the screw all the way. So now you've basically set the anchor. You can just kind of just twist this out by hand, and you've set that anchor in place. And now I'm going to come up here and I'm going to do that same thing for this anchor here. So we'll get this out of here. And what we have left is two anchors that are set in the wall and locked in it. Now I can take my rail, and what I do here is you've got spacers that come with the Pawport door. There's these two spacers here, four spacers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one spacer, I'm going to put one screw in the top through this hole. Again, this is the top hole here with the ears facing in. And I'm going to thread a spacer because I want this to be off the wall a little bit. So I have a spacer threaded into that little gap right there in the back of the rail. And it sits right behind that screw. And then I have my other screw that I just used. I'm going to put that in. And I'm going to add another spacer to the back of that. So now I have my rail with two screws with two spacers. And I can thread that back into my anchor. And now I can re-engage these screws into the anchor where they're already locked down. So let me screw these back down with the spacers in the middle. Come on this side and take a look at what that looks like. You can see that spacer coming in here. So the spacer just gives us a little gap off the wall for this to lock onto. And it screws in nice and tight. And then I come up here into the top one, and I can do the same thing. And kind of lock that down. And so now I've got one rail locked onto the wall, one mounting rail right up on the side. Again, I could do it straight into the metal. You need a different drill bit to drill into the metal, but the same concept would apply. And you could use even metal screws if you wanted to screw right into the rail, into the metal. But for most people, they're going to do it around their door in the drywall, and this is where you want to do it. Now, when you're doing the second frame, you remember I left a little bit of a gap here. It's about a 1/4 inch or so. I want to do the same thing over here. I want this to match the height the same way. So I want to just come down and look and make sure that I have this drop down. You can measure this if you want, but it's only about a 1/4 inch. I can do it by my eyesight. And I can see right there, that's about right square. So I have a nice level line, top and bottom. Take my Pawport tool. I'm just going to come in here and mark the wall in both holes here again. Just make a little mark so I know where to drill. Now I got my two dots right there, you can see. And the drilling is super quick. Just come right up here and just drill out those holes. And another one here. And then I can go ahead and tap in my anchors. And I just like to use the back of the screwdriver. You can use a hammer. Just set the teeth of that into the drywall. And then you're going to screw those down to make them engage like we did before. So now that the anchors are engaged, I'm going to go ahead and take the screw out. And now, same thing as before, I take my other rail with the ears facing in. I'm going to take two spacers. I'm going to put the spacer. I like to put the screw in first, bolt in first, then just put the spacer on top and make it just come down so it's just like that right there. And then I'm going to take the other one, do the same thing on the other side. Just thread that spacer up and through. So I've got my rail with the two spacers, ears facing in. I'm going to put it straight into the anchor, like so. And then the only thing left for me to do is to tighten down these two anchors. All right, so now what I've done, because I have no security grooves on this door, I've essentially just made my own setup. I've created my own situation where the two rails are just framed nice and level around this door into the wall, locked on with anchors, 4 anchors. That'll hold plenty of weight. Again, if my door was wider, if this was wider, I would have just moved these out, or depending on the width of that, if it's really wide, it's almost as wide as Pawport, I might have had to go straight into the frame, in which case I would have just either used a different drill or just a metal screw, self-tapping metal screws. We don't include those in the kit. If you're going to drill into metal, just go to your hardware store, get the right fastener. You can drill right into the metal in the same spot with the holes and just mount these rails straight onto your frame. But if you can get them around your frame, if there's room for that like there is with this door, then this is a nice way to do it. Once you have these rails on, then you can go back to the manual and you're just going to take your Pawport and hang it on here. The instruction manual for Pawport will pick it up from here. But this shows you how to get your mounting rails on your wall in a scenario where there are no grooves to mount it to. And this is super strong and solid. These 4 anchors are going to hold quite a bit of weight. Your door is going to be fine up here. And you can get rid of that flap and transform your pet door.